Right, young lady, I'd like you to pick one record at random out of each of those 8 sections.
Okay.
Off you go. Okay. That's the way to do it. Oh my. Didn't want that one, did I? You, feel free to close the doors.
No, but then it will move the thing.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's just a bit of fun. Okay. 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 Oh my.
I might just make it easy for you.
Go. Right, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, thank you very much. Welcome to the video. Today I'm going to do another random selection of from my vinyl collection, this time chosen by my daughter. Completely at random. Again, and one of the things that I've been thinking about is that people ask me, you know, why such a large and eclectic music collection of vinyl and CDs and so on. And I think it's partly because it was my hobby when I was a teenager. So I lived in a kind of a fairly crowded home. I had a small bedroom. The bedroom was kind of my sanctuary where I had my little music center. And that's where I would disappear for a couple of hours in the evening and get away from the mayhem in the household and just listen to records. And it kind of became my hobby. But also because early on in my record collecting, once it got beyond pop and basic rock, I began to discover particular types of music that would make the hairs on your arms stand up, or give you the shivers really. And and there's something about those tracks, and I'm thinking, you know, for Genesis it would have been Firth the Fifth, the guitar solo in Firth the Fifth. It would be the climax of One for the Vine from Wind and Wuthering. It would be the climax of Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. And in the classical domain, it would be Camille Saint-Saëns' Third Symphony, the Organ Symphony on the fourth movement. Or in Wagner, it would be the Liebestod at the climax, at the end of Tristan and Isolde, or at the end of Das Rheingold, the first of the 4 operas within the Ring, which is the gods entering Valhalla. And there's something that about all of these tracks that it kind of, you're at a particular level listening to a track and it's enjoyable, and then it just kind of just goes a little bit higher and a little bit higher, and kind of goes, somehow it kind of goes higher still, and it gives you these shivers and so on. And not unlike something else that we partake in as adults. And so I kind of been searching for that, more and more of that experience over the years, and I'm I can add maybe the climax of part 1 of Mike Oldfield's Ommadawn, maybe Close to the Edge by Yes, and there are countless others, but it's still relatively a rare occurrence. So I've ended up with this huge record collection, always searching for that feeling. And so anyway, on to today's. So that's why it's such a large and eclectic and varied collection. So of the albums, 8 albums, I told my daughter pick 8 albums. Number 1 today is Marty Robbins' greatest hits. Marty Robbins, country singer. Not being into country very much. I like my Americana. I like my country folk. some country. I kind of like a little bit of Johnny Cash, but particularly Rick Rubin's era, the latter era when he was kind of trying to get Johnny to, you know, mine for tracks outside of the country domain, but that he could do something with. So I kind of like that. And this guy, Marty Robbins, he's more of a crooner type. So this is from the late, I think most of this stuff, in fact all of this stuff, I think was recorded in the 50s, and I think he went on forever. He's a bit of a crooner, as I've said. I was attracted to him because somebody was writing about him or citing him as a great influence, and he did a couple of albums which were about gunfighter ballads, so good storytelling and everything. But anyway, that's kind of more traditional country. I think he is, or at least it was at the time, building his legendary reputation within the country genre. Anyway, Marty Robbins, don't know much about him apart from that. I know he went on for ages. Number 2, Paul Simon. I like Paul Simon. This is Graceland. Not so keen on Graceland. It's not my favourite album. My favourite is The Rhythm of the Saints, the album that followed this one, which instead of having African rhythms has Central and South American rhythms on it. Because he likes these, kind of stealing interesting rhythms from different parts of the world, as Paul Simon. This particular album, I kind of was put off, I think, by You Can Call Me Al, which is a great pop single. And the video is really good fun, but for some reason it kind of coloured my whole feeling about the album. But it's undoubtedly a classic. The Boy in the Bubble opens. It's great. I prefer Peter Gabriel's version on his Scratch My Back album, I think it is. Graceland, not too keen on that one. Diamonds on the Sole of Her Shoes. I think that's got Ladysmith Black Mambazo, I think. Doing the vocals, kind of a cappella vocals. Really good though. Under African Skies is good. Homeless again. The voices, the South African voices are incredible. But anyway, yeah, good album. Undoubtedly a classic. You probably know that one already. Not one of my favourites necessarily, although I particularly like, as I said, Rhythm of the Saints and his early solo albums, particularly There Goes Rhymin' Simon and Still Crazy After All These Years. Anyway, number 3 in this short list of 8 is Todd Rundgren, Hermit of Mink Hollow. Got into Todd Rundgren in the 70s. A friend of mine who introduced me to Genesis and the New York Dolls, and a couple of others also introduced me to Todd Rundgren. This is probably my favourite album of his. I'm not really sure if it's kind of typical of a lot of his albums in that they are they're very varied. There's got lots of highs and lows on there. There's always a couple where you think, why did he bother? And here you've got Onomatopoeia, which is kind of a bit fun, a bit unusual. I'm kind of thinking, well, in amongst the rest of them. So All the Children Sing is good. Too Far Gone, nice ballad. Lucky Guy is similar. Can We Still Be Friends? Absolutely beautiful. Fade Away. Great vocalist. Super prolific because he had his band Utopia at the same time as well. So yeah, this guy is a rock legend, but kind of too varied to appeal to vast audiences. This one here, Sky 2, corporate progressive rock. This is an album by John Williams, Herbie Flowers, Kevin Peake, Tristan Fry, and Francis Monkman. It's kind of a super group, and I think basically a number of executives got together in the late 1970s and said, if we take the best from rock, we take the best from progressive rock and some classical influences and kind of recut these classical themes and these melodies, we could make a whole load of money. And I think they did. The musicianship is undoubtedly good. The music is quite interesting, but it came out after punk. And most of us who were into this kind of thing were broadening our musical horizons with punk and then new wave. and then the 80s, the synth-based 80s stuff that made popular music very, very interesting. But this came along. These guys made, as I say, I suspect a whole load of money from it, producing pleasant-sounding stuff that kind of belongs on as background music on a documentary program. But I know there are Sky fans out there who will swear by this album, and I've listened to it recently, just coincidentally, and it's pretty good. But you kind of think, well, nice themes, 10 years too late. Another band I was introduced to in the 70s through buying the single called Samba Pati or Santana Festival. You could start with anything in the Santana catalogue. He's got fantastic Latin American rhythms, brilliant creamy Gibson guitar, I think it is. Just so many brilliant albums. A bit too samey. It's his own. That's a really unfair criticism because he's been around forever. He's still recording today. After he was out there in the late '60s doing stuff. But this is another one of a really good album. What do we know from this? That's well known. Well, Let the Children Play. Carnival itself. Let the music set you free. Nothing else that really sticks out for me. I've got a friend of mine who's absolutely swears by Santana. I think it's got everything. But yeah, good album. Enjoyed it. Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. Well, as a Bruce Springsteen fan back in the day, I was searching for anything that was from kind of the New Jersey music scene, and I was interested in Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul, and I bought a cheap compilation called Having a Party by Southside Johnny. Got all Southside Johnny stuff. Sadly, I only saw him once, and that was on the acoustic tour. I think that was following the MTV Unplugged series. He did an acoustic tour, presumably in America, but he came to the UK and I saw him. So the horn section wasn't present, which was such a shame. This is not the album to get. The album to get is Hearts of Stone, which has got quite a few Springsteen tracks. So Springsteen and Little Steven wrote a lot of the stuff that Southside did. Great voice, fantastic band. What lets this one down is that I think some of it is recorded kind of in a festival. And what I think about when I think about New Jersey music is the sweaty kind of venue nightclub. And I remember seeing Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul on the first tour promoting the Men Without Women album. And I saw him at a place called Dingwalls in Newcastle, which was a basement club where it was just a sweatbox. It was like 2 hours sweatbox playing all these absolute classics. No doubt he would have played I Don't Want to Go Home, which he wrote, Little Steven that is. But this album sounds like it was recorded at a festival, and it's just the whole sound of it doesn't just sound quite right to me. But yeah, some great tracks, but I would search out the studio albums. So you've got Hearts of Stone, of course, Talk to Me is brilliant, Trapped Again, Vertigo, I Don't Want to Go Home, The Fever, did a very famous version of The Fever, did Sam Cooke medley as well. Brilliant stuff, but really that's not the album to go for. So Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes live, not the album. Somebody else that was around a lot in the 70s and I got into is Rod Stewart. Never been a huge fan of Rod Stewart. Atlantic Crossing and A Night on the Town, I think, were the albums that were kicking around when I was a teenager. And of course, once I started buying albums, I bought Sing It Again, Rod, which was a compilation from the very early 70s stuff, which is really good, but really kind of ramshackle style, fairly poorly recorded, so it sounds very kind of flat, just not a good slick sound. Not hi-fi sound, that's for sure, but good tracks, there's no doubt about it. Why did I keep buying albums? Why did I buy this one, Blood Red Roses? Well, maybe because the vinyl was selling fairly cheap, and I thought, well, he's still got something to offer. And there's no doubt about it. He has got a fantastic voice. I read his autobiography a while ago, and he's such a lad. And he's lived the best life. Incredible. He's got musical talent. He hung out with some of the best of his generation. Became a songwriter almost by default. He was a cover artist at first, but then realized he was very good at storytelling. And there's an album before this one, which I've forgotten the name of it at the moment, but it's that's slightly better than this one. But he does tell a good story, and he's got a co-writer, presumably doing the music and a lot of this stuff. But yeah, he's Look in Her Eyes is kind of, he's got up-tempo stuff. Hole in My Heart, another up-tempo track. Farewell is good, is about saying goodbye to one of his best mates who passed on. Grace is I think that's about his Irish connections or Celtic connections. It's a good album. Julia as well. I think that's about an early girlfriend, and his autobiography is full of kiss and tell stories about his exploits in romance throughout his life. Yeah, but he's a fun guy. Lived the best life. Not one of his best albums, but he's still worth listening to. And finally, Rod Stewart's Lost album, which is Faster Than the Speed of Night. Hang on, his pseudonym was Bonnie Tyler by this stage. And I remember this one, I bought the Total Eclipse of the Heart, which was the single, which was really good. And like most people, I picked up on Jim Steinman and Meat Loaf, and of course it's Steinman who's behind this particular thing. And he's got the members of the E Street Band. He's got Roy Bittan on piano. He's got Max Weinberg on drums, but he's also got Rick Derringer, which was a great late 60s, early 70s, or throughout the 70s, session guitarist. Larry Fast, who appears on keyboards and was also on Peter Gabriel's first couple of albums, I think. But yeah, so great. It's definitely got a Meat Loaf sound. Good version of Have You Ever Seen the Rain? Faster Than the Speed of Night. It just could have been lifted from any of the Meat Loaf albums. Going Through the Motions, I think Blue Oyster Cult did a version of that, and it was co-written with Ian Hunter from What the Hoople. It's absolutely bloody awful track, and it's an awful track here as well. Straight From the Heart is a Bryan Adams song. It's good. This is let down. Oh, hang on, it's not Rod Stewart, it's Bonnie Tyler. This is let down by kind of an 80s production sound, so it's a combination of kind of Meat Loaf, Jim Steinman, typical style, but slightly updated for that 80s sound. And even though you can see what they were getting at here, and there's some really good songwriting behind this, it just sounds too slick now for me. And yeah, it's not bad, but it's not an album I would dig out very often at all. So that's another 8. Random selection there. Some of you will have some of those albums. Maybe listen to them. Not the best, not the most interesting selection, I'm afraid. But there you go. That's another 8, and I'll see you on the next video. See ya.